Hey, Jason Forrest here, and welcome to How to Sell to the Just Looking Buyer. My entire career has been created around this single sentence about how to sell to the just looking buyer. Like, that's really the whole secret to sales, right? I mean, if you think about it, there are sales posers in the world and there are sales warriors. And the sales posers can sell to people that are ready, willing, and able, people that are already interested in what you have to offer. It's just a matter of logistics and facilitating the transaction. But the ultimate sales warrior is the master of selling to the just looking buyer. And so that is who we're going to focus on today. That's what we're going to focus on as far as learning the mindset, the process, and the language on how to convince the just looking buyer to choose you over all alternatives. Again, I believe that your personal income is 100% correlated to your capability in doing that. Again, I'm going to say it again. Your income is 100% connected, it's correlated to your ability to convince the just looking buyer to choose you over everything else. Why do I say that? Because if you think about sales and what a high turnover the sales profession is that there's people in the sales industry that are kind of those job hoppers, right? They're always chasing kind of the latest and greatest hot market. And so if the oil and gas industry is up, of course they go and chase that because they believe that's where the business is. If all of a sudden if it's a SaaS company, if software as a service is the new latest greatest thing, then they're jumping ship and they're going there. They think it's real estate, they leave SaaS and they go into real estate. All of a sudden the housing markets get a little troublesome, and so they go, you know what, housing market's not for me. So again, they switch and they do medical device or insurance, something else. That's not the sales warrior. We do not want to be, we do not want to have all of our livelihood connected to something outside of our control. One of the things that psychologists will teach us is a concept called locus of control. And our locus of control is how much do you believe? Maybe you can ask yourself this right now. How much do you believe that your success is 100% up to you? Up to you, up to your abilities, up to your mindset, up to your internal resources. And how much do you believe it's up to your circumstances and the economy and inflation, all the things that are going on? People who are extremely successful, people who have the most success, regardless of the economy, regardless of the circumstance, the situation, it's people who have high locus of control. They believe that majority is completely up to them. And so that's what we're going to focus on today. I'm going to show you again how to convince the just looking buyer to buy from you today over all alternatives. This is something that I am sure a majority of sales trainers are not teaching, because this is not something that a sales philosopher can teach you. This is only something that a sales practitioner can teach you. If it's a philosopher, they don't know how to deal with this kind of stuff. They've never actually done it or experienced it. And so that is not their expertise. And so we're going to show you again the practical skill set in order to make that happen. All right, we got a lot to cover right now, so I definitely want you to be fully engaged during this session. It'll go less than an hour. I'm going to talk very, very fast. Those of you who've been here before know that I talk really fast. I have a lot to cover during that time, and so I want to do my absolute best to serve you, to give you the advantage in this market, in this economy that's happening right now. Also, if you go to fpgnow.com/sell to the just looking, I believe, or a little slider that's going to come across. I'm sure it's in the comments as well. You can download a handout that goes with what we're talking about today. It also is a really cool infographic. I think infographics are cool because they're good things that we can put on our wallpapers, screensavers, print them out, post them next to our computer screen to again anchor us, to remind us of what we're learning so that we can retain it. The most successful people in the world, they embody what they need in order to achieve the greatness that they desire in their life. And so we gotta just not just learn it intellectually, but we have to embody it. And that's exactly what we're going to focus on today. So let me share with you right now what I call the perfect storm that's currently happening with sales professionals right now. That's the perfect storm. Number one, consumer confidence is dropping. Number two, inflation is rising. As we all know, prices are getting more expensive. And number three, interest rates are rising, of course, with the Fed constantly raising rates. Well, so all that right now is causing the selling landscape to change, right? So the environment is changing right now. And based upon our research, 80% of prospects are just looking, compared to only about 20% 6 months ago. So what does that mean? It means that your sales strategy 6 months ago was to influence people to choose you over the competition. They've already decided 6 months ago. Your prospects had already decided to make a change. Your job was just to convince them to choose you over the competition. But see, that strategy doesn't work with the just looking buyer. It's almost like you've been a master of playing American football, and then all of a sudden you become a coach playing European football over in Europe, and you're now Ted Lasso. It's an entirely different experience, and so you need to learn different strategies in order to make it happen. So again, the strategy on how to sell a buyer who's decided to make a change is not going to work with a just looking buyer. But here's the good news. If you can see things for what they are and not make them worse than they are, then you can adjust your strategy to make even more money during times like this. I'm going to say it again. If you can see things for exactly as they are and not make it worse than they are, which means you're not going to be one of those Gen Pop poser salespeople that says, hey, my industry is too hard because it's being affected the most by this economy and inflation, prices, interest rates, all that kind of stuff. So because it's so hard, I'm going to go job hop and I'm going to go find a different industry that's easier for me to sell. I've never met a sales warrior in my entire life that says, I want to find the industry that's the easiest to sell in. That doesn't really work with the ultimate sales warrior. So again, I'm going to show you how to adjust that strategy so you can make even more money during times like this. What are you talking about, Jason? How are you going to show me how to make more money when things are harder? Well, here's the cool thing. Because you are now going to be the light in the dark tunnel. You're now going to be the one that people are drawn to. Because when things are really easy and everyone is buying and consumer confidence is really high, well, you don't need to be that great. And so people really aren't depending upon the sales warrior to be great and to be that primary source of confidence, motivation, hope, and certainty. But when things are tough, when things become more uncertain, now you shine. Now you become the light in the dark tunnel. And if you are the great one, if you are the one that really is that X factor for them, then man, you make so much more money than when the times are really good. I've proven this over all the major recessions that have come. Every single sales warrior has come to me and said their greatest year was in the worst economic times. Their greatest year financially was in the worst economic times. And so again, that's the purpose of today, right? Is to show you how to be one of those warriors to take advantage. So there's three things that I'm going to talk about today, three specific strategies. There's so many, right? But in this session, we're going to talk about three strategies that I need you guys to absolutely write down and really memorize and internalize and start executing. So I'm going to show you these three strategies. At any time, if you want to ask us a question, then definitely put it in the comment box. I've got sales warriors that are like waiting right now that are in the wings. We've got a separate Zoom room set up. So if you want to just, again, pull yourself out of this conversation and out of this training and immediately go talk to a sales warrior about our recruiting services, our training services, or maybe you just want a private coaching session as far as what we're covering right now. Then again, just pull yourself right out. And in the comments, you'll see a link to a Zoom, and you'll just be transported magically right into a Zoom room with our sales warriors that can, again, help you right now with what you're struggling with the absolute most and can work with you to give you the tools that you need in order to maximize performance during these crazy times. So again, let's get right down to it. Number one, the first strategy of the three that you must do in order to sell to the just looking buyer right now is you must see the just looking buyer for exactly who they are. You must see the just looking buyer for exactly who they are. Maybe even turn it into like an affirmation. I am a warrior who sees just looking buyer for exactly who they are. I am a sales warrior who sees every just looking buyer for exactly who they are. Make it a mantra, make it an affirmation, make it who you are. Why do I say this? Because as soon as you start judging, think about this for a second. As soon as you start judging a prospect, you immediately lose your ability to influence them. That's all selling is, right? Selling is influencing your prospects to see the world through your eyes. Selling is influencing your prospects to see it, to see and to think and to believe what you see, think, and believe. Because you obviously believe in what you're selling, you believe in what you're offering, you believe it's going to change the world and improve people's lives, but they don't. So your ability to influence them, to get them to see it differently is what it's really all about. But see, check this out. As soon as you start judging, right? As soon as you start judging your prospects, you see and you judge them incorrectly, you lose your ability to influence. What do you mean by that, Jason? Well, right now, just think about it for a second. As soon as you find out, you ask some questions of your prospect and you find out that, yeah, they're just kind of checking things out. They're just looking, they're kicking tires, they're just starting the process. Maybe it's even like an executive assistant that you're talking to in the B2B side, and they're just gathering information, and you find that out. I mean, right now, just for a second, what are the thoughts that are arising when you find out that they're not serious yet? What are the thoughts that are arising? Some of the thoughts I've done this exercise many times with our clients, and the thoughts that are arising are, oh, man, I don't have time for this person. This is a waste of my time. I need to make my quota this month, and I don't have time to deal with this kind of buyer. And so those are the thoughts. Well, those are the kind of thoughts that are arising. Then what are the feelings that follow that thought? Some of the feelings that I hear from our clients, and we work with them on our weekly dojo sessions during our programs. We have trainers all around the world that are helping our clients kind of work through this stuff. But some of the feelings, some of the emotions that are arising, they'll say is, I start to get angry. I start to get worried that maybe this is the only type of prospect that my marketing department's going to provide for me. They're only going to give me these just looking prospects that are kind of a waste of my time, and I need to focus on the ready, willing, and able prospects that they're ready to buy, and convincing them. That's what I'm used to, and I can't make any money off this. So the emotions start to become, again, uncertain or afraid or worried. Think about this. If you now have the thoughts when this prospect is talking to you, you're speaking to them over Zoom or in person, maybe you're selling a home. And again, that person that's now come into your model home, or you're talking to a person, and all of a sudden they haven't decided to sell their current house. Again, what are those judging thoughts? Those judging thoughts are creating those emotions. And as soon as you start judging a person, you've now lost your ability to influence them. How? So how do we fix that? Again, we focus on this first strategy, which is see the just looking buyer for exactly who they are. Again, say it with me. I am a warrior who sees every just looking buyer for exactly who they are. Wow, that's so different, right? Because now if we see them for who they are, now we can influence them to where they need to go. All right. So right now, we're going to write this down. Again, whatever we write in our life, we invite into our soul. And again, it's all about embodying these belief systems in order to be the best version of ourselves. And so here's what I know. So now again, we're going to see the just looking buyer for exactly who they are. So here's what I know about a just looking buyer. I know 5 things to be true. There might be more than this. If you know if there's more than this, put them in the chat box, put them in the comment box, and we can make this an ever growing list. But here's 5 things that I wrote down that I know about a just looking buyer to be true. Number one, they haven't decided to make a change. That's what we know about a just looking buyer. Right? We're not going to see a just looking buyer worse or give it some sort of extra meaning. We know that a just looking buyer just hasn't decided to make a change. Okay? That's what we know to be true. What else do we know to be true? Number 2, we know that they don't feel safe to buy right now. Yeah, they don't feel safe to buy right now because of the economy, because of their personal financial situation. Again, it's a business sale. It's maybe some internal budgeting, some budget cuts that are happening right now based upon certain things. They don't feel safe to buy right now. We know that to be true too, don't we, Jason? Yeah, we know that to be true. Number 3 is there's something they don't like about their current product, service, situation, or else they wouldn't be talking to us. Wow, that's a big one, isn't it? Number 3, again, there's something that they don't like about their current product, service, situation, or else they wouldn't be talking to us. Wow. Why do I say that? Well, because you know they could be worse than a just looking buyer. What's before a just looking buyer? A completely satisfied, happy buyer with what they currently have. That's what's before a just looking buyer. So we know it's not that. We know that there's something wrong, something they don't like about their current product, service, situation, vendor, manufacturer, or else they wouldn't be talking to you. There's something wrong with it. And it might just be a little string, a little thread that needs to be pulled. It might just be a little something we got to itch a little bit more. But again, we know that to be true. Number four, we also know that even though they have a problem they want to solve, it currently isn't bad enough in their mind to do something about it. Say it again. Even though they have a problem they do want to solve, again, it's more subconsciously or unconsciously, even though they have a problem they want to solve, it's not really bad enough yet, is it? It's not bad enough in their own personal mind to actually make a change, to do something about it. We know that to be true as well. And number five, what else do we know to be true? Is this is a big one, and that is now that you know the rules of the game, you can win the game. See, before now, maybe that wasn't conscious in you. Maybe you didn't realize to see the just looking buyer for exactly who they are. Well, if you don't see them for exactly who they are, then again, you fail to have the appropriate rules in order to win the game, in order to influence them, which is what winning the game is all about. So again, I'm going to repeat the four again. Number one, they haven't decided to make a change. We know that to be true. Number two, they don't feel safe to buy right now. We know that to be true. Number three, there's something they also don't like about their current situation, or else they wouldn't be talking to us. Something's wrong. Okay. Number four, even though they have a problem they want to solve, it currently isn't bad enough in their mind to do something about it. Those are the four. And of course, the fifth one's all about us. And that is now that we know the rules of the game, now we know how to win Monopoly. Now we know how to win at whatever game we're playing. This selling is a game. And now we know the rules, and now we know how to win, which gives you, everyone who's listening right now, gives you a huge advantage over your competition who has no idea about the rules of the game in order to sell to that just looking buyer. So again, before I go into number two, everything that I'm teaching you today, everything that's going on is stuff that we address in our Warrior Selling 90-day program. Of course, it's a very in-depth program. It's 50 hours. It's listed as number 2 in the world on Global Gurus. It's like the P90X. It's like the Navy SEALs of sales training. It's the most intense thing you've ever experienced. So if you are serious about being the absolute best, then right now, just transport yourself, click on the link in the comments, and you can go right and talk to one of our sales warriors about the Warrior Selling 90-day program, or of course, our coaching programs or anything else that we offer. But again, only click the link if you're serious about being the absolute best. All right, so here's number two. Number two, write this down. You must sell to the just looking buyer how they must be sold. So again, what's number one? Number one, right, is you need to see them exactly who they are. You see the just looking buyer for exactly who they are. So number two is, once you see them that way, now number two is you must sell to the just looking buyer how they must be sold. So again, let's turn this into an affirmation. I am a sales warrior who sells every just looking buyer exactly how they want to be sold. I am a sales warrior who sells to every just looking buyer exactly how they want to be sold. Like, make this a part of who you are. Write this out. Make this a mantra. Again, your capability to convince the just looking buyer to make that change, to feel safe, to do something right now when everyone is telling them to wait until the storm settles. Your ability to do this is in direct proportion to how much money you earn over the next 12 to 24 months. This cannot be just something you intellectually know. This must be something that becomes who you are. It's not knowing something different, it's becoming something different. You must sell to the just looking buyer how they must be sold. So here's how they must be sold. Number one, you must focus on the decisions that are relevant to them. So one of the beliefs, we have actually 15 beliefs of warrior selling. And one of my favorite beliefs is this, and that is I can sell anything by breaking it down into small decisions. I can sell anything by breaking it down into small decisions. Just think about how true that is. Whenever we've learned anything in life, anything, to drive a car, to add and subtract the first time, to read something. What do? We broke it down into small little chunks. That's because that's the way that our brain likes to learn things, likes to figure things out. The higher the chunk, the more the chunk is, the more we become overwhelmed. And if people become overwhelmed, what do? They panic and they stop and they freeze or they flee or they fight because their amygdala hijacks them. It's a very primal part of our brain. It's a response that we do whenever we get overwhelmed. And so the secret of being a ultimate sales warrior is to have this belief system that says, I can sell anything by breaking it down into small decisions. Well, in addition to that, there's relevant decisions that matter for the just looking buyer that are not relevant for a different type of buyer. For example, a buyer who's definitely decided to make a change, but they're torn between you and someone else. Those are different decisions that, again, we go into in our 90-day warrior selling training program. Those are different than the just looking decisions. We have to be relevant for those decisions. Let me give you an example of that, Jason. Or ask me, what's an example of that? An example would be, we've all been taught, hey, give them your story, give them your message, your company history. See, that doesn't really matter for a person who hasn't decided to make a change yet. And so if you lead with your story, let me tell you about us. Let me tell you how long we've been doing this. We started this company 15 years ago for the purpose of blank, 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 blank. All that stuff it doesn't work with a just looking buyer. It only works with a buyer who's on the fence between you and, let's say, your biggest competitor. And so we got to be real strategic about what are the relevant decisions we need to focus on that unlock the just looking buyer, that get them to be liberated from their current situation and get them to, again, feel safe to make that change. So again, a just looking buyer doesn't feel safe. So here's the thing, right? A just looking buyer that doesn't feel safe to buy and hasn't decided to make a change needs to decide on these specific decisions. All right, write these down. Number one, the decision of being unsatisfied. So the unsatisfied decision, it's questions like this. Are they truly unsatisfied with their current situation? Like, what's really wrong with their current vendor, their current manufacturer, their current home, their current community, their current situation, their current CRM, their current software that they're using, their current accounting firm, financial firm, car, sleep instrument, whatever it is. What is really wrong with it? What is it not doing for them that they were hoping it would do? We have to figure that out. We have to ask those type of questions. And again, in our 90-day program, we spend a lot of time trying to make a list of all those type of questions that we need to do. But again, we got to figure out what's not working with their product or service. The next decision we must resolve for them in order to move past the just looking side is the economic decision. This is super true right now, right? Super relevant in today's environment. Is the economy is stuff like, do they feel safe about the economy as it relates to them? You know, how do they feel the overall economic situation is going to impact their unique company, their unique job, how does that affect the stock market? How does the stock market affect them? How does the housing market affect them? So it's the economy, both globally, but also nationally and then local. These are all parts of the different economies. So the global economy, the national economy, and of course the local economy. How does it specifically affect them? We've got to figure that out. We've got to ask questions around that, and we've got to get them to be resolved that it's not going to influence this. It's not going to hold them back from making this decision. The next decision, the third decision that we need to focus on with these just looking buyers is the financial decision. The financial decision is, do they feel they can financially afford to make a change? Do they feel they can financially afford to make a change? Do they feel as a company that that they have the budget for it, or that they're going to move money around in order to spend what you're about to charge them? So financially is important, right? Do they personally feel, from a personal perspective as well as a company budget perspective, a department budget perspective, do they feel they can afford it? They feel it's worth it. And then the last decision is the emotional urgency decision. So emotional urgency is, do they believe their life will improve enough when they make this change? So again, do they believe their life will improve enough when they make this change? The why always must be greater than the sacrifice. And so we've got to create our entire sales process, our sales strategy, must be focused on getting them to truly be unsatisfied, getting them to feel the economy, the economy is safe right now for them to buy, get them to feel they can financially do it. And of course, get them to believe that their why is greater than the sacrifice they're going to have to make, which is that emotional urgency. So these are the relevant decisions that you must focus on in order to get that just looking buyer to feel safe to make that change and to feel safe to buy right now. That is what's important. The second thing you want to do in order to sell to the just looking buyer how they must be sold, number two, is if the prospect hasn't decided to make a change, then we must ask questions to uncover what's really going on. So again, if the prospect hasn't decided to make that change, we must ask questions to figure out what's really going on. So in our warrior selling process, it's a 12-step sales process. The second step is called the Discovery 360. The Discovery 360 is all around kind of these three elements, right? So it's asking questions about what they currently have. So what do they like about what they currently have? What do they not like? How's it not working for them? What's working for them? Also asking questions about the competition. So besides us, who else are they considering? What's an alternative they're considering? What's good about that? What's not good about that? And of course, asking questions about what they want and what's that going to really do for them, and what are they hoping to accomplish? What's truly the outcome they're trying to accomplish with the product or service that we're representing right now. So we have to ask questions around these things. And so again, we got to be constantly making a list of all of these questions. So some of the questions you could of course ask are, what do you like about your current CRM, your current home, your manufacturer, your supplier, your vendor? What do you not like about them? What's not working for you anymore? But again, we got to ask those specific questions. Okay, again, right now, before I go into strategy number 3 for how to sell to that just looking buyer, if you're new to joining us, you can speak to any of our sales warriors right now about our training or our sales recruiting programs. All you got to do is in the comments, click the link, and you'll be transported into the Zoom universe to speak to one of them. Or if you just have a question about how to sell something, we love coaching salespeople through whatever their struggles are in order to make a deal happen. So just go talk to us as well, and we can help you with one of those as well. So a little private personal coaching session. All right, here's the final one. And number 3 is this. Write this down. You must create enough problems that makes it worth changing for them. Again, you must create enough problems that make it worth changing for them. So think about this, right? Remember I said earlier, one of the things that we know about them is they currently have a problem, but they don't have enough problems to make it worth it. And so what we have to do is we have to be the one that creates more problems for them. You need to make their unconscious problems conscious. This right here, this third strategy, to me is what really separates like the top 10% from the top 1%, is your ability, your capability to create even more problems. So I'm going to show you some ways to do this, but this really is like the secret weapon of the whole thing. And it's critical for you to be able to do this, right? We know that eventually these problems are going to come up. It's just they're not consciously aware of them. But that's one of the things that we have to do is we have to install those inside of them. So there are 2 types of questions that you can ask whenever you're working with your prospects. You can ask eliciting questions or installation questions. So eliciting questions are more your kind of traditional open-ended question and like, tell me more about that. And again, those are effective, but the problem with just asking strictly open-ended questions is you cannot control the outcome. You can't control, is that question going to lead to an answer that is going to move the sale towards buying from me or towards the goal that we're trying to do. Like in this case, is get them to make a change. I don't really know. So I could ask that open-ended question, tell me more about this. And again, I could lose all position of strength by asking that. So instead, what I want to do in this case, I want to ask more installing questions. What am I doing? Installing is an interesting word, right? I'm installing problems through my question. I'm installing problems through my question. Okay, so let me give some examples of installation questions I'm sure you're already doing. You need to be more aware of them so that you can, again, create even more problems than even realize they had, right? So for example, you could say something like here would be one that I would do. So I would say, customers have decided to make a change during today's economy to do so because number one, they want to give their sales team some training to sell through today's economy. Number two, their team is on track to make their sales goals, but they want them to win even more market share. Or number three is they're interested in our sales recruiting services because they need to hire some additional sales warriors to go and penetrate new market share. So I'm curious, of those three, what would you like to spend the rest of our time talking about? Again, is it wanting to give your sales team some new techniques, some strategies on how to sell through today's market, through today's economy? Number two is your team is on track, but of course you want to up level them. Or number three, it's you need to hire some additional sales warriors. I want to talk about our sales recruiting services. So you see what I did there? I installed some potential problems that they might have, but they haven't expressed to me yet. They might not even know they have those. For example, it might be a little bit hybrid of both. They might have originally just wanted to have a conversation around giving their team some new strategies on how to sell through today's recession or today's economy or today's uncertain times. But then what did I do? That's what the problem they admitted. That's a problem they thought they had. But in addition to that, maybe they have another territory that actually is on track to make their goal, but they're worried about the future for them, and so they want to show them a way to up level them. So all of a sudden, I have installed. There might be another problem over here, or maybe they have another territory that they do need to hire some people, and they're really kind of behind on the whole recruiting efforts. And so again, I've installed another kind of potential problem. So you want to be constantly thinking about what are the problems your people have and how can you install even more problems. Another example would be, so let's say you're asking questions about their current situation. And so you would say something like, hey, so tell me about your current vendor, tell me about your current manufacturer. One of the things that I know is that you wouldn't be even having a conversation with me if there wasn't something wrong with your current vendor. Is it maybe a supply chain issue? Is it maybe a customer service problem? Is it they're not keeping up with the technology and the trends? What specifically is something that you're struggling with your current vendor, current manufacturer, that again, you're interested in seeing what else is out there. Again, interesting, right? They might only have one of those problems. They might only have, maybe it's a customer service problem. But all of a sudden I've installed that, yeah, you're right, Jason. You know what? I also am struggling with the fact that they're not keeping up with technology, or yes, they've got a supply chain issue. And so I'm installing that there's even more problems that they didn't even realize that they had. And so this is the secret, again, that separates the top 10% from everyone else. Here's the cool thing about this. Eventually, right, they're going to figure out all of those problems with or without you. They're going to figure out their current supplier has supply chain issues. Or they're going to figure out if it's a consumer purchase like a home. They're going to figure out that eventually they've outgrown their home. They need more space, or they don't like their backyard, or they don't like their neighborhood or their commute distance. They're going to eventually figure that stuff out. But if you can help them figure it out today before they leave you, then now you have the ability to create even more problems for them. The more problems they have, the faster they have the desire to improve those problems and make that change. Again, the why has to be greater than the sacrifice that they're willing to make. And so you've got to create, again, more problems for them. All right. So to recap, covered a lot today on how to sell to the just looking buyer. But this is the secret, right? So 3 strategies. Number 1, you must see the just looking buyer for exactly who they are. Number 2, you must sell to the just looking buyer how they must be sold. And then number 3 is you must create enough problems that make it worth changing for them. Look, I'll say it one last time. That is your ability to influence the just looking buyer to buy today over all alternatives is what separates, again, that average general population, gen pop poser salesperson from the ultimate sales warrior. And that's what this lesson is all about. That's what this session is all about. At the same time, your ability to convince your prospect to make that change when it's socially unacceptable. It's about to be socially unacceptable to do something different. Most people are going to be told by the media, by their company, by their owner to just kind of like chill out for a little bit. Let's wait and see what happens in the economy before things kind of stabilize and kind of calm down a little bit. But again, your ability to convince people to do something when it's socially unacceptable to do it is directly correlated to how much money you can earn and how many lives you can improve. All right, until next time, this is Jason Forrest. Push yourself to become a better version of you.